This comes out of Ireland, and it's a doorknob. The doorknob went right through there, and this is more complex with all this Gaelic designs and things, but there's a star here and a star coming back, and there's the 13 patterns, and if you've studied the Flower of Life, you'll know that this is all connected to the Flower of Life. We found it in England and France, and we found it in Israel, in several places. We found it in Egypt. In fact, the first place we ever found it was in Egypt. It was found on a 6,000-year-old wall in Egypt, though I believe that even though the wall was 6,000 years old, that the Flower of Life was not done 6,000 years before, but was done by the Coptics in 500 BC, about the same time as the Essenes. The Coptics and the Essenes were working together. And here's another man we're all familiar with, Leonardo da Vinci, out of the Italian Renaissance. He definitely knew about the Flower of Life, though the people who have studied Leonardo da Vinci and have spent their lifetime trying to understand his work do not understand this. In fact, it was found in a book of things that they threw away because they didn't know what it was. But this is Leonardo's drawing, showing where he's got the Flower of Life pattern expanded inside of here. And Leonardo spent a great deal of time looking at all the little angles that were inside the Flower of Life, making each possible way and relationship that he could find out of this. And he made pages of these, studying the Flower of Life in great detail. But of course, he was a Mason. And the Masons were intimately connected with the Flower of Life. And that proof is beautiful, though I can't show it to you here. The Masons, whenever they built a temple, in fact, all the churches that were built in Europe in the earlier days, when they removed the cornerstone out of it, on the back were the signatures of all the Masons and the architects who built that. They were very strange-looking things. They were like a circle with a line going across, or a line like this, and then a line coming over like they were. You just look at them and you go, "What's that?" But we've looked at several hundred of them, every one that we could find, the names of all these Masons, and every single one of them mapped perfectly over the Flower of Life. So obviously, they also knew about it, and so do all the zodiacal signs that are in astrology, mapped perfectly over the Flower of Life, and so do the runes. You know, the runes, the ones that you throw to get the thing, where they came from. Anybody know? Is Sweden or Norway or somewhere up in there? All the ruins map perfectly over the Flower of Life. So they were using that as their key also. And so I could go on for a long time, actually. I'll go a few more. We mentioned Tibet, but a place where this symbol was extremely popular, and is even till today, was China. It's all over China, even today. No matter where you go in there, you'll find it constantly. You'll find it on their screens. You'll find it these folding screens. And one of the most prominent places is in the Forbidden Palace. And in the Forbidden Palace, in the emperor's throne, there are two lions, these snarling lions on either side of his throne. And the lion on the left side of him, if he was facing out, was a female, and it just has a kitten, a lion kitten under her paw. But the lion on the right side, the male, has under his right paw a three-dimensional Flower of Life. It's a sphere, but it's three-dimensional. And it says right in front of there, because this was what the emperor said, was that this lion was protecting all the knowledge of the universe. And then, if you go into China, you'll find the Flower of Life everywhere. It's all over the Shinto temples. And again, you'll see the lions protecting not only the Flower of Life, but the seed of life, and even the central core of life will be displayed. And the first time I ever gave one of these workshops in Japan, I had 3 Shinto priests who knew that I was going to talk about this, sat in my class, and they were very quiet. They didn't say hardly anything. And then every once in a while, I would say something, I'd be explaining this stuff like that, and they'd go, they'd visibly be shocked. And finally, they warmed up a little bit, and we got to talk. And they said they had been the Shinto priests. They had been priests all their life, but they didn't know what it meant because they had lost the true meaning that was behind all of this. One of them, when I got to something that's called Metatron's cube, which you're going to see in just a minute, he just about fell out of his chair. Because Metatron's cube, once a year, they put on this beautiful silk white robe, and over the breastplate is this complex pattern called Metatron's cube, which we have up there. None of them had any idea what it was. They didn't even know. All they knew was that from ancient times, they were to wear that thing and walk down the street once a year and do this particular ceremony, but they had no idea what this thing was. And this is what we found everywhere, all over the world. There was a time once when the whole world knew about this, but at this point, almost everybody's forgotten what it is. Even the Freemasons, by the way. I've had very high levels of the Freemasons go through here, and when they study very carefully what's going on, they were not even told about a lot of the things that we're talking about, because more than likely, even their leaders have forgotten. So I don't remember what the next slide is. Aha, I do remember now. This pattern could be infinite. I mean, you could keep right on going and going up across the whole wall. You could keep going forever. But all over the world, they stopped at 19 circles and put these 2 circles around it. Why did they do that? Obviously, why didn't they go out further, or why did they go only in the middle? Why was it always 19 circles? Well, that became clear as I was studying this and we were decoding what this was. The reason is because, and I can't explain this, you're going to have to read into the books in order to understand this, but when spirit comes out of the void, out of nothing, and begins to do a vortex rotational motion in a certain way, it creates the flower of life. And there's a vortex pattern that it makes that begins to make this pattern. And if you were to complete the circles that are only partially drawn, like here's one here that's only partially drawn, here's another one that's only partially, here's a little piece of one and here's like 3 pieces of ones that are only partially drawn. You're going to find lots of them in here. They're not completed circles like this one. If you complete all the circles around the outer edge, just do that. And when you do, this yellow is where the 2 lines of the flower of life was. And these blue ones are the completed flower of life pieces that were missing. You do that. And then the innermost points, which we talk about in the book, are here, there, 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 and there. That's where the next rotational vortex is. And so when you do it, you make the next vortex, you get another sphere at each one of those places, and they link through and form this pattern of 13 circles. In other words, they didn't want you to see this pattern of 13 circles because it was too sacred. In the ancient world, that pattern could not be displayed publicly. They would kill you if you did it. I would be killed for showing you this if this was 3,000 years ago, because it was too sacred for just the average person to know. So if you extract it out, you get this, leaving out all the rest of it, and you have these 13 circles. This was called the fruit of life to the ancients. And it has 13 systems of knowledge in there. And the reason it's called the fruit, because it fills in all the details of the reality, of this reality we live in, all the tiny details.